Hello and welcome to an exclusive video interview brought to you by the Enterprise World. Today we have with us Maria Morukian, who is the CEO of MSM Global. Maria's educational and professional backgrounds have been centered around three core theoretical areas. Those are organizational behavior and development, intercultural communication, and social justice. Her deep interest and passion lie in supporting human connections at the interpersonal and institutional levels. In this exclusive interview, let us know more about her journey and her company. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, Maria, we'll get started about knowing a little bit about your company. Please enlighten us about your vision and mission of the company.
Sure. So MSM Global Consulting is a woman-owned small business founded in 2014 in Washington, D.C., where I live. And I founded the company with the mission to support organizations to build thriving cultures for all of their workers, for all of their members, and also for the communities that they serve and support.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So, you mentioned that you've been around from 2014. So that's like almost a decade now. So what were some of the, early challenges that you faced, and also how did you, confronted them and cope up with them?
When I first launched the company, I was still working full-time for another employer, and I had really spent my entire career working in other organizations, some small, some quite large, very hierarchical. I worked within the US federal government for a number of years. So when I decided to fully invest my time and energy in my own organization, I left a stable paycheck. I left a pretty advanced management position with opportunities for further career growth. I left health insurance, and other perks, right, that came with working for another organization. And I also left a team that I really cared about and enjoyed working with. So it was challenging in that first year running my own business to not only adapt to working independently, but also to really embrace this new identity of being an entrepreneur, of being the sole employee and business owner. And I'd always been a part of a team. I really like working collaboratively. So it was different. It was challenging to sort of shift from answering to others to having to completely own the business and see myself as sort of a leader in my field.
Yes, I think definitely, you jumped, you shifted gears from the whole corporate culture, full-fledgedly you went into starting your own entrepreneurial journey. So, when you started this, when you laid the foundation of it, what were some of the services and products that you emphasized on, and what was the things that you made sure that I want to stand out in this?
So I thought it was very important to take a holistic approach to organizational culture change. And as you mentioned, I focus primarily on organizational culture as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, and intercultural competence and understanding. So I've always been interested in the human side of how organizations work. And what I've seen over the last 20 years of being in this field is that quite often diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are relegated to human resources, and the only focus is on hiring, or it's a one-time training that doesn't really help to foster long-term change in the organization. So my whole approach has always been to really look at the existing landscape, the culture of the organization, who is having what experiences within the organizational culture and why, so that we can make more data-driven approaches to address some of those issues. I see DEI as what we call an adaptive challenge, which means there's no one single solution. It's not an easy, or it's not even easy sometimes for us to identify what the challenge is, because there are so many different and complex components that are impacting the challenges that organizations face. So I really wanted to help my clients take that more adaptive approach, recognize the complexity, and invest in short-term and long-term change. So that's a three-pronged approach. It's assessment of the organization, training and development that really focuses on people learning, reflecting on themselves, and then developing some tools, some practices to engage more effectively in a diverse workforce, and then strategy. So what are the organizational metrics that will help us yield progress?
Wonderful, wonderful. As you mentioned something about data-driven, so I really want to know, how do you incorporate technology in all of your offerings?
So it's interesting because the vast majority of our work is focused on people and human connection. And there was a significant increase in demand for DEI work right in the middle of the global pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, where we could not be physically together in a classroom environment, in a meeting space. And so in terms of leveraging communications technology, that was incredibly important for us to find ways to build connections, to build psychological safety where people could have difficult, heartfelt, emotional conversations on Zoom or on any virtual platform. So there was a lot of intentionality put into how we leveraged technology, not only in terms of learning platforms like Zoom and MS Teams, but also using anonymous polling, using mural storyboards, things that are available for free online to people, but give them the opportunity to collaborate even when they can't be in the same physical space together.
Excellent, excellent. I think we are also an example of it by connecting to the technology.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So, I read through your website, and there was this, particular portion that I was reading through, and it actually emphasized about your unique approach and how you customize all of the innovative strategies that you have for each and every client. So if you could just brief a little bit about that also.
Sure. So there are certain foundational aspects of our work that are fairly consistent, and we're intentional about making them consistent so that we can measure growth and change over time. For example, we often will use the same or very similar questions in our survey instruments. So that way we can let our organizational clients know how they are comparing in terms of their cultures with other clients, but we also give them the opportunity to add some unique questions that are relevant for their industry or for their organization. We also provide a widespread array of training programs. And again, although there's a consistency in terms of the content that we cover, we fully customize our programs for many of our clients so that it's relevant to not only their needs, but their culture. So we try to infuse language that is meaningful to that client. We try to include realistic scenarios or examples that will speak to that client and to the audience. And then in terms of our approach to organizational change and strategy, again, we have sort of our baseline approach, but again, depending on the organization, the size, and also where it is in its DEI journey, we're going to be very, very selective in our approach, because with DEI, it is definitely not a one size fits all.
Yes, yeah, that's absolutely right. And also, as you mentioned about training, so your book also emphasizes a lot about training, and it emphasizes about how you foster the work culture and workplace. So if you just, give us a little insight about that as well.
Yes.
And
So the
congratulations on that. Sorry to interrupt you.
oh,
Congratulations on the book.
thank you. Thank you so much. I'm still so humbled and grateful that I had the opportunity to write that book. So it's the book is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Trainers, Fostering DEI in the Workplace. And although it was written for a training and talent development audience, what has been really interesting is I've heard from people who don't have any formal background in training or talent development, who are coming from a wide variety of organizations, of job functions, of cultures around the world, who are finding meaningful tools within that book. So that's been really gratifying to know that this is something that is relevant for everybody, really, who cares about embedding DEI into their organizations. And the premise of the book is really to, quite honestly, give people a comprehensive guide that I wish somebody had given to me when I first started doing this work 20 years ago, to just be able to have that sense of what is needed in order to not only ensure that people are receptive to the training that you're providing around DEI, and that it leads to behavior change, but also, again, how do we integrate diversity, equity, inclusion, learning, and behaviors and accountability across the organizational structure so that it's not just in one little corner, and it's not something that can be ignored or goes away when the spotlight is off of DEI. So the book is really laid out in terms of providing some background and some historical perspective about DEI, and then really walking people through all of the processes from assessing the organization, designing training, delivering the training, considering the needs of a globally diverse audience, which is different than a US-based audience. And then finally, I think, in my view, the most important chapter is the final one, and that is, if you are a DEI practitioner or aspiring to be one, you have to do your own work. And that work is never ending. And so it really focuses on the internal reflection, skill building, and self-care that we as DEI practitioners need to be very mindful of.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, you mentioned that you've been in the business for a long 20 years. That's almost like 2 decades. So we'll rewind a little bit, and I'd really like to know more about your professional experience, your professional journey, and if you would just highlight some of the key achievements throughout the journey.
Yes. So I started my career in a small nonprofit organization called the National Multicultural Institute. And I was right out of graduate school. I had earned my master's in intercultural communication. And I was fortunate enough to come into contact and be hired by this organization, which was life-changing. Not only because of I think the caliber of the work that the organization was doing, but also the people that I was surrounded by. I had the opportunity to be mentored by some of the greatest facilitators I've ever seen when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, people who are able to make connections across vast divides, across all kinds of identities, and who were really willing to not only give me very honest feedback, but also to let me make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. That led me to the federal government. I spent a number of years working for the US State Department. And in that role, I was providing leadership development, training, consulting, coaching for members of the diplomatic community. So that gave me an opportunity to really embrace that intercultural communication work, as well as the DEI work that I had been a part of. So that was really gratifying. I worked for a time as the practice director of leadership and management for a company called Management Concepts. And in that role, one of the great joys for me was being able to build my own team of incredible professionals, coaching and leadership development professionals, and we still are good friends and colleagues to this day. So I feel like at every point through the journey, I've had an opportunity to be exposed to new challenging ways of looking at how to support organizations and build those thriving cultures. I've had the opportunity to collaborate with some of the greatest, knowledgeable, but also really compassionate, wonderful human beings. I also have been a faculty member on the faculty for American University School of International Service for the last 8 years. And that is so gratifying because being able to work on a regular basis with students who are aspiring to make great change in the world, who bring new insights and often teach me so much more than I could possibly impart to them, is a huge gift. So those are, I think, a few of the highlights that come to mind, all of them ones that have led me to where I am today, and also have been incredibly educational, sometimes humbling, and often a great deal of fun.
Great to know. So what is your role as the CEO at MSM Global?
My role as the CEO? So I lead a team of professionals, some who are full-time staff, and then a number of whom are independent consultants who we work with on a regular basis with our clients. My role is really overseeing the organization and the work that we're doing with our clients. A good portion of it is also focusing on business development, maintaining those relationships with our clients, building new ones with potential clients, and really being the face, the voice of the organization, getting out to conferences and various events to present, and really just share as broadly as possible the value, I think, of our approach, and being able to highlight what we have seen and what we continue to see as the most important challenges that need to be addressed with DEI.
Superb. So, we've, in this whole conversation, we've, multiple times mentioned about people and how people focused you are and how people driven you are. So I'd really like to know more about your team in the organization and how do you keep them motivated and, productive at all times?
I firmly believe that I need to be accountable for practicing what we teach. And so after many years of, facilitating conversations, training, coaching on leadership and management practices, I am constantly challenging myself to remember some of those lessons. I think what is most important is that my team we all share the vision of the organization. We all have a set of shared values from which we operate. And those are not just the values that we put on the website, they're the values that we live on a daily basis, not only with each other in our organization, but also in our personal lives. We are constantly in a state right now of growth and expansion. And so regularly checking in with each other, especially when there are new processes that have not been tested or have not become the standard, making sure that when something falls through the cracks, we offer each other a little grace, but we learn and move forward, I think has been really important. We have strategic planning retreats twice a year where we meet in person. The whole team is virtual. We're all in different cities. So it's really important for us to have that FaceTime. And in addition to that, once a month, we have a team day where we spend at least half a day on a Friday and we come together and we do some fun team building conversations and activities, but we also take some time to focus on how are we doing? What are some of the challenges that might be coming up that we need to address collectively? But just being able to create a little bit of space where we're not focusing on anything but ourselves as a cohesive team on that ongoing basis is really, I think, important for all of us. And then finally, I have one-on-one check-in meetings on a weekly basis with all of my team members. And I think that's really important because it's their agenda. So you've got 30 minutes of my time. We'll talk about whatever is most important, whatever's a priority to you. And my job is to listen, to learn, and to offer any advice or guidance if it is requested from you.
Great. And I think, Maria, you're leading by example because you're obviously practicing everything that you're preaching. So it's a great thing. So I really want to know, what does the future at MSM Global looks like?
And I will say that one more thing that I think is really important in terms of leadership and management to that end is I make mistakes regularly. And that's part of the journey too, is I think focusing on building trust by being the first to acknowledge when I've messed up and regularly asking for feedback from my team is really important. But to that end, as we're thinking about the future of MSM Global, we are, as I mentioned, we've been in this state of sort of constant growth and turmoil because of that growth, exciting turmoil, but still just, trying to be in reaction mode. So as we move forward in the coming months, we're really looking at prioritizing some of the new business lines that we want to focus on based on what are some of the patterns that we see emerging in the field and with our clients. Where are the pain points that we feel we need to focus on first and foremost? We are a very creative team. We love to ideate and come up with new ideas. And sometimes that can be really beneficial, but sometimes it can be a challenge because we don't settle on just one thing to prioritize. So that's something that we're really focusing on in the coming months is, okay, we've got all of these many ideas, all of these possibilities. What are the services and the products that we want to prioritize that will have the most meaning and benefit for our clients?
Excellent, excellent. And it's actually very brave of you to accept that you make mistakes. So, if you want to be this, as an entrepreneur, to be so courageous and confident, what is that one piece of advice that you will share with upcoming and budding entrepreneurs who are looking up to you?
I think entrepreneurship is a state of mind as much as it is a title. And I never said to myself, I want to be an entrepreneur. So I think my advice would be, don't start out thinking about your brand or even the products that you're going to create. Start with vision. What is the gap? What is the missing piece that you see in the world around you that you feel compelled to help fill or address? And then think about that in terms of your purpose, your mission, right? What would give you a sense of meaning? And I think when we start from that broader perspective, everything else falls into place. It becomes much clearer for us then if we have that end vision in mind to start to look at, okay, so what are the ingredients that I need to mix together to get there? The other thing I would say is there's never a perfect time to embark on the entrepreneurial path. There will always be risks involved. And so I think just taking calculated risks, really thinking through, again, what's most important to me? What change can I make happen? And does that change need to happen from me embarking on my own my own path, creating a new company, or is it intrapreneurship, where I work from inside an organization, but I have the freedom and the leverage to be able to build something from the inside? So I don't think there's one right way to do it, but we do need to think about how we get a sense of meaning, and also how we sustain ourselves as we move down that path.
Well said, Maria. I think this is what I have from my side for you today. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being here. I wish you all the best for your company and also for your future. And that is what I have from me. So yes, I'll take your leave now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.